know. Look, I'm a helicopter parent, and I know I'm the guy that like paves the way for his kid. She wants to act. I'm like, oh, let's make a movie. You don't really, that's not normal.
But you know what, man? The only thing that's wrong with that, this is the only thing that's wrong with that,
Okay.
and this is where we have a problem, human beings. The only thing that's wrong with that is the idea that she's not going to have to start making a living on her own. She's going to be able to carry forth under her dad's momentum.
Right.
But the only reason why that's a problem, even remotely, is because we have this absurd idea that it should be super important for you to take care of yourself, that it should be super important for you to financially carry yourself.
Explain.
I've been fucking with this idea more and more lately.
So I love that you fuck with ideas.
This my buddy Eddie Wong, who's a chef and a really fucking interesting, cool guy, was on the podcast.
Okay.
And Eddie was talking about universal basic income. And at first I thought, what? You're gonna give people free money? Get the fuck out of here. That's so stupid, dude. You can't do that. And then the more I thought about it, the more I said, well, it seems like when you give people money, like it kills their motivation for a lot of folks. But what if that's just like your needs are covered? Like, is that really true that if you give people something and you give them security, that it takes away their creativity? Or is this just, we don't know, because everybody's always been in need. They overcame that need and then they became successful, right? Mm-hmm. That's the story that we hear over and over again. But what if all your needs were taken care of, like food, shelter? Like you have basic stuff. You're not going to get rich, but you have enough to eat and you always have a roof over your head.
Right.
Which is, first of all, wouldn't we like each other more if that was the case? If we didn't have to worry, if nobody had to worry about how much money they had, nobody had to worry about not being able to eat, nobody worried about not having a place to sleep. That sounds utopian, right? But that's almost doable financially. If you look at the amount of money we have versus the amount of people we have versus how much money people make, it's like, ooh, it's kind of close. Like, we would have to restructure a lot of shit, but it seems like they might be able to give every person $12,000 a year. Something like that.
Right.
And I think if we could figure out some sort of a way to do things like that, I think we would have a giant alleviation of tension and struggle at its like base level. Survival shit. Like to elevate us as a people just above the survival thing.
Right.
So then we can relax more and get better at all this other shit. But we gotta get past the survival thing. And the base of the survival is what? Basic food, basic shelter, having a roof over your head and having food. If you could just guarantee that, if we could all collectively say, let's pile all this fucking money together. Let's figure out how we can make this better. What's number one? We gotta figure out a way to make it easier to figure out what the fuck you want to do with your life. You shouldn't have to just dive into some job and be desperate. I mean, we were talking today, Jamie, about people that we know, that you know, that maybe wanted to do something else, but they played it safe, and now they're kind of stuck in this weird place where they can't get out of playing it safe because they have bills, and they get trapped. I feel like if we had some sort of like universal basic income, it's totally possible that way less people would do that, and then more people would try to make independent films, or more people would try to become stand-up comics, or more people would try to write books, or more people would try to build cars, or do whatever the fuck they're compelled to do.
How did you do it without getting $12,000 free dollars a year?
I got lucky. I worked.
Well, you
I
made
did
the
a lot
trip.
of different things.
You didn't like wait for it to show up at your door. You actually went out into the world and had to move some elements around in reality to make a new reality.
Yeah, I guess, man.
But I mean,
I also
do you
didn't have a lot
consider
of
yourself
options.
an exceptional? I consider yourself an exceptional human being now.
That's
Did
very
you
nice
consider
of you.
yourself an exceptional human being then?
I knew I was good at Taekwondo. That was about it.
So you had a skill.
I was good at one thing. I knew I was good at one thing. I was like, God damn it, if I can get good at that, it's totally possible I can get good at life.
Right. That's smart way to look at it.
But,
at the very least, you're a hired hand.
Yeah,
walking through the
definitely-
countryside, taking care of people's problems with your bare fists and shit.
No, well, I wasn't really taking care of any. I was competing.
But if you had to, if society collapsed and they didn't have any competitions,
I'd already realized I could get my ass kicked too easy by a wrestler or by a good boxer. I was having problems already. Some sparring problems.
But you built a world, and I'm not saying like I like your idea, but at the same time, it's like not anybody could do exactly what you did, but anybody could take the steps that you did.
Well, I'm not saying that this
here,
world
like
that we live in right now
anybody
doesn't
could
offer
take-
opportunity.
Yeah.
This world we live in offers ample opportunity. That's not what I'm saying. I'm
But how
not
does
saying that
12
someone
grand
can't.
more a year make?
I really feel like it's possible that we're doing it wrong. I just think collectively, and then I've said this before, so if you heard me say it before, anybody listening, I apologize. But I always say that if we looked at ourselves as an organism,
Okay.
right? If we looked at society as an organism, what would we want to fix as the organism? Would we want to make the muscle stronger, or would we want to kill the cancer? Would we want to figure out what's wrong with it? Would we want to cure the disease? Well, the disease has got to be poverty. Like, it's the number one problem that we have is crime and poverty. Like, we've got to focus on that area of our world. And instead of thinking of it as, oh, they should pull themselves up by their bootstraps, or, oh, they need to fucking, realize there's opportunity out there. You just got to go get it. Everybody's got their own path. I think collectively, as just a human species, we have to look at the world's problems, like the world's real deep poverty and social problems, and look at it almost like as if we are a living creature. If we're a living creature and there's parts of us that are starving to death, you got to get that part food, right? I mean, that's universal. That's why those commercials with Sally Struthers were so compelling, right? Because you would see those babies that didn't have any food.
Somebody
You're like,
who's hungry, and I've got so much.
you're like, holy shit. I feel like we only have a certain amount of time, just as an organism that has a finite lifespan. You have 100 years if you're lucky, and this thing that we're doing now where we have a president, and you have to fucking go out there and earn your keep, boy, and you get a job, and well, looks like you're gonna have to get married now, you're a dad. Oh, okay. And then you're like, all of a sudden I'm dying.
Right.
Like, I was living, I worked in a factory, now I'm dying.
Right.
I don't know if that's the right way to make the most productive society, or the most enjoyable experience for the people that are living in the society.
It feels like a little more joy.
Damn, I'm high.
A little bit. I feel like a little more joy would the American experience would benefit from a little more joy.
Fuck yeah.
There's so much toil. And as you said, there's so much, you could do anything here, but you got to do it. And we spend so much time chasing something that makes life easier. I'm not going to argue that. Money makes things easier to do. But chasing, the idea of prosperity in one direction as opposed to spiritual prosperity. Not saying religion, saying prosperity of one's soul, growing as a person. Something that doesn't have to stop just because now you've entered the workplace, now you're married, and now you're falling into place with the model for society. There's still a space in there for, and I think maybe this is where I'm coming around to your free $12,000 a year.
It's not my idea by any stretch of the imagination.
The idea of free $12,000 a year, because maybe it does leave a little breathing space where suddenly in that space somebody's like, oh, I want to do this, and this would make me happy. And when I'm happy at this, it'll trickle down at work. Like, so many people are like, I go from one job to this job, and and then I get the weekends maybe, and my weekends are Tuesday and Thursday or something like that. So yeah, you're right. I was thinking I got privileges and fucking breaks that a lot of people wouldn't get. And I came from poor white people, but it didn't matter. It was white people, and so there are breaks for me out there somewhere in the world. And I always think through that prism. But you're right, man. There are a lot of people out there that would benefit from here's a cushion. Here's something to start with. Where you go from there, and what is that for? It's $1,000 a month just for being an American.
Yeah, I mean, instead of thinking, oh, everybody's scamming to try to get welfare money, how about just give it to them?
Yeah.
How just give them enough to survive? Just give everybody enough to survive, and then let's work this shit out. And then when you make more than X amount a year, you can, if you're like Kevin Smith or me, you would say, look, I don't want my 12 grand. Put it back into the system.
Exactly.
Pay all your taxes, all that stuff. But this would make us feel like we're looking out for each other a little bit. I mean, I'm not fully formed on this idea. It's just something I'm battering around in my head. But I'm battering it around in my head the same way I'm battering around this idea that there shouldn't really be a president. It's only there because we've been doing it this way for 300 years. But if it didn't exist, There's no way that's how you would run it. There's no way we would all agree. Well, what we should do is we should get one person who knows the most people with the most money, who have been doing this the longest, and that person will have a giant advantage over everybody else. And get that person backed up by these huge corporations that would benefit by this person being in office, because you'd make laws and make environmental rules a little bit lax so we can get away with some shit and we can make more money. There's no way we would say, yeah, let's do it that way. There's no fucking way. We would say, no, we want the geniuses of the world. We want the professors, the Elon Musks. We want the Bill Gates, the people that are very wise and very intelligent and very rational. You want to talk to giant groups of them, and we want to form our own opinions, and we should all be voting collectively as a group. There shouldn't be some representative government, some electoral college. What are you gonna fucking wear a powdered wig too, you cunt? You're gonna ride around on a fucking horse with some homemade horseshoes with your powdered wig and your electoral college? Are you gonna read it on a scroll in the town square standing on an apple box? Fuck off. That shit is old.
See, you make me feel bad, dude, because I get high and I'm like, let me write a movie about a guy who turns a guy into a walrus. You get high and you want to change the world. Free $12,000 a year for everybody. I think what gets in the way is human nature. Because you have some people who are like, why is he don't deserve that $12,000, or he gets a lot. He's got a nicer house. He's also getting the $12,000 that I'm getting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think that would start seeping in.
Yeah, but he gets a lot because he makes money on top of the $12,000. So like his needs are taken care of.
But you're
the
being
rest of the
logical.
money,
You got to admit,
yes.
human animal doesn't always see things logically.
Right.
Sometimes
Well,
they just be like, why them, why not me?
We get selfish. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's where the
certainly an issue.
$12,000 a year comes in a problem. It comes into it.
I don't know. We don't know because I don't think it's ever been really, at least on a wide scale, it's ever been practiced.
I'm with you. What a good
I just
idea
don't
it is.
think our system
How many
is
people
good.
did you say we had in this country?
300 and something million plus Mexicans.
So do quick math. What is that?
How much? Oh, I'm sure they've done it out. That's one. There was an argument by an economist, like a really well-respected economist, for universal basic income, and I think the number they were going by was $12,000 a year. See, surprisingly supports universal basic income. Just Google that.
Talk is cheap, motherfucker.